who have been in attending this conference. You may remember last time we had it at UMass Dartmouth in 2017. He also was the initial program. He began the program with the chanting. So with that, Maharaj, on to you.
This chanting I'll be doing from Mahanarayan Upanishad called Medha Suktam. I think it is very appropriate for this
Maharaj, you got muted. Can you unmute yourself? Maharaj, you got unmuted. Yeah, please unmute yourself.
Prabhu. Okay, let me begin again.
Yes, Maharaj.
ॐ यच्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगात् विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्य माना त्वया जुष्टानुदमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदथे सुवीराः त्वया जुष्टर्षिर्भवति देवी त्वया ब्रह्मा गतश्रीऋतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वद्रविणो न मेधे मेधां म इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना उभावा धत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती सा मां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषतागं स्वाहा आमां मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सा मां मेधा सुप्रतीकाजुषन्ताम् मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि अग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु ॐ हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om, which is the most exalted of all Vedic mantras, which has emerged from the Vedas as their essence, who is the Supreme, bless me with the power of intelligence. Lord, may I become endowed with the nectar of wisdom, which would free me from mortality. May my body become strong, healthy and fit. May my tongue become sweetest. May I hear the auspicious abundantly with my ears. You, Om, cover the Brahman, and you are covered by Medha, intelligence. May the Shastras that I have heard be there for my protection. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let the goddess of intellect come here with happiness. She is everywhere and has a happy frame of mind. May we, who were grief stricken before you came, become greatly intelligent and know the ultimate. By your grace, one becomes a saint, one becomes learned, one becomes rich. Showered by your grace, one gets different kinds of wealth. So, O goddess of wealth, give us wealth and intellect. Let Indra give me intelligence. Let Saraswati give me intelligence. Let the Ashwini Kumaras, who wear the garlands of lotuses, give me intelligence. May Saraswati grant me intelligence in the form of deep thinking, manana, enjoyed by the apsaras and gandharvas that spread like fragrance. Intelligence is glorious in form and is like nectar. Intelligence is golden and pervades the entire universe. Intelligence is powerful and is sought after continually. Let it come to me with love and bless me. May the fire god grant us the medha and the glow of the Vedic chanting. May Lord Indra grant us medha and the strength arising from the control of one's senses. May the sun god grant us medha and the strength to create a fear in the enemy's heart. May we realize Hamsa, the self, that is our own self. Let us meditate on that Paramahamsa, the Supreme Self. May Hamsa illumine us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Thank you, friends. May this Vedanta Congress be successful, meeting its ends and benefiting everybody. That is my prayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. And with that, I would like to formally welcome you to this 25th Silver Jubilee version of this conference. So the conference is, the primary host is the Center for Indic Studies at University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, UMass Dartmouth. And through a memorandum of understanding with Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU, we host it alternatively around every year and a half. So the last conference, the 24th Congress, was held at JNU in January 2020. And of course, the Silver Jubilee, the grand 25th version, was supposed to be held on the UMass Dartmouth campus in the summer of 21. But as you know, because of all this pandemic, we had to, first of all, postpone and then decide to do it virtually. So I think it is really providential, and it is blessing in the sense that our when we hold this conference at UMass Dartmouth, it's typically in summer, July or August. And this time when we couldn't hold it in summer, we were debating, we meaning the three organizations that are jointly conducting this event, the Center for Indic Studies at UMass Dartmouth, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and the Institute of Advanced Sciences. So the three of us, we were debating when to hold it once we decided it would be online. And once we came to this time frame, October, there were some reservations because, as you know, this is the festival season and people have many other commitments. But it was so nice that we decided to hold it because I think the true spirit of this conference is reflected in this season. We just had the Durga Puja, and this Durga Puja, as you know, gives many people the chance to reread the Devi Mahatmyam, Durga Saptashati or the Chandi. And in Chandi, the Devi gives us a very unambiguous commitment that yada yada hi badha danavotha bhavishyati tada tadavati vyaham karishyami arisamshaya. So the point being that this fervor of this festival season, I hope it inspires us to actively take part in this conference over the next 7-8 days. As you know, because it's virtual, we couldn't do it for too long every day. So we decided 4 hours every day over 8 days. So because it's virtual, we need to do things a little differently. You have the program schedule. We will follow time as punctually as possible. And with that, I will now, it's my great pleasure in requesting Professor Girish Jha to be the chair of this session, and Professor Jha will announce our next speaker. Girish ji.
Thank you, Professor Sen Gupta, for that wonderful introduction, and thanks to the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity. And welcome you all once again to this Silver Jubilee occurrence of our Vedanta Congress. It's a pleasure seeing all of you once again. And it's also a rare honor to me to be chairing this session where two very eminent speakers are there. Mr. Kapil Kapoor, you know all, and Dr. Deepak Chopra, the popular speaker that all of us know. So to begin with, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce my Guruji, Professor Kapil Kapoor. He's my Sakshat Guruji. I did my PhD under him in machine translation. As you all know, he's the chairman of Indian Institute of Advanced Studies in Shimla. And formerly, he has been the Chancellor of Mahatma Gandhi International University in Wardha, Maharashtra. He's also been a Pro-Vice Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru University. And during his tenure at JNU, he introduced many innovations and centers and academic institutes in JNU. One of them, of course, was the Special Center for Sanskrit Studies, which is now one of the organizers of this event. He was also the Dean of School of Languages in JNU, and during his tenure, he was able to rechristen the name of the school to School of Language, Literature and Cultural Studies. And as I said, he founded the Special Center for Sanskrit Studies and brought all of us here. And subsequently, that special center was upgraded to the School of Sanskrit and Indic Studies. And Professor Kapoor has been an eminent academic and an administrator of repute. He's been chairing many committees of Government of India, and important committees are the Standing Committee on Historical Records of National Archives. He's also been the chairman of the committee to create a comprehensive language policy of India. The language policy of India has a very important say in the national education policy, if you have seen the document. And I'm sure the current government and the future governments will be certainly paying a lot of attention in implementing the language policy that he came up with. He's also been the member of 75th year of Indian Independence Committee, and which has been actually working very actively in organizing many events. And more importantly, Professor Kapil Kapoor has been, I should say, a stellar teacher, a very eminent and very popular teacher of Indian grammatical traditions, English literature, and of course, in general, Indian languages, particularly Sanskrit tradition, and has been able to inspire a generation of scholars, including myself. And he's been teacher for 59 years and guided, supervised more than 41 PhD scholars, 36 MPhil scholars, and he has over a dozen very, very eminent scholarly, very well cited publications, books. And if you have seen his Encyclopedia of Hinduism, volumes 1 to 11, he's been the chief editor of that, published by Rupa and Company. A very important achievement for the Hinduism.
Girish
And
ji,
I'm sure,
Girish ji,
right?
Girish
Hello,
ji,
Ji.
Girish ji.
Ji, sir.
I thought you should reserve all this for the obituary a few years later. I'm going to be around for some more time.
I'm done, almost said. So we can have a look at some of his books and particularly the semantic structure of verb is the book that we have all been referring to in our thesis and in the research papers. And if you have heard him before, you will realize that it's a pleasure to always listen to him speak, and his inimitable style and his diction is all so inspirational. So I now invite Professor Kapil Kapoor to deliver his inaugural talk of this event. The topic is Jeev, Jagat, Brahmand, Shrishti and Brahman, the structure of Vedanta. Professor Kapoor.
Thank you very much, Girish ji. It's only expected from a good man and a student like you to say nice things about the teacher. And it is my great honor and privilege that once again I am speaking when you are chairing the session. Vedanta, it's a very complex. In one way, it's a very complex term. Complex philosophy, complex structure of thought. If we start going into details, it will take, I think, a number of years to understand. It may take only 1 hour to read the Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra, but it will take a lifetime, more than a lifetime, for some people to understand. And I have been dabbling in this. I've been at the invitation of this great organization, this University of Massachusetts and Center for Indic Studies. I think it started when Girish ji was the dean of this school. And I've been talking about this. I've been trying to make sense of it, you see. And when I put these few terms in a hurry, that I'm going to talk about these things, I want to structure, I want to communicate how I am going to talk and about what. You see, Indian philosophy has some basic questions. Indian philosophical darshan कहते हैं, दृश्यति अनेन दर्शन, जिसको अलग-अलग चीजें देखने से जो understanding होती है, that is darshan. There are 7 or 8 very important questions. I'm not going to go into them, but some of them are, for example, that what is this creation? What is this jagat, this sansar, this world? And in this world, who am I, me, and what are all the other living beings that I see around me? And is this something which has come into being? Is it marked by multiplicity and difference, endless difference and multiplicity? Or is there some thread which runs through it all, something that strands and knits it, and we can understand what it is? Is there some way of doing that? Now, Indian, as you know, the Shada Darshanas, I'm not going to go into the Buddhist, although the Buddhists also and the Jains also have addressed this question of non-duality in other contexts and have different words and different names for this. But in the Shada Darshana, the Shada Darshan, the 6 systems of philosophy, we can see how this concept Brahman, which is the core concept of Vedanta. Now, let me just restate, everybody knows that Vedanta does not mean the end of Vedas. It means the climactic, the ultimate principle of Vedic thought. The ultimate, जैसे अत्यंत, अत्यंत में जो अंत है, अत्यंत, the final, the ultimate understanding of Vedic thought, that is Vedanta. And you know, it is we all know that there are 3 source texts for this: Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra. Let us put it the other way: Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, or Badarayana Sutra, composed by Vyasa, Veda Vyasa, Badarayana Veda Vyasa, because Veda Vyasa composed his Mahabharata in Badri Narayana, so he's also called Badarayana. So Badarayana Veda Vyasa composed the Brahma Sutra. But source is Upanishads, and some of the core concepts of this the Koti, that is Brahmana, they appear in several Upanishads. But because in the Upanishads there are differences, and sometimes there are virodha, there are oppositions also. So Badarayana Veda Vyasa codified, put together the entire systematized the Vedanta thinking in his Brahma Sutra. And so since it is a summary of Vedanta Sutra, it doesn't necessarily always support Shankaracharya's Advaita Vedanta, as we all know. Now, given this, the Vaisheshika Sutra enumerates 24 tattvas, the elements which exist. And Sankhya divides them into 2, into Prakriti and Purusha. You see, if we proceed from the 3 sets of 6 schools of philosophy, Nyaya Vaisheshika, Sankhya Yoga, and then Mimamsa and Vedanta, we have these sets of epistemology and ontology, that is Nyaya and Vaisheshika, epistemology and ontology, Sankhya and yoga and Sankhya, and then the other one, the last one, is Mimamsa. Mimamsa is the ontology, and is epistemology, and Vedanta is the Brahman, is the ontology, object of how do we understand. If we proceed through these, we have in Vedanta 24 tattvas, elements, and in Sankhya we divide into two, and divide them into 2 sets, Prakriti and Purusha, matter and energy. Very simply, direct translation. Matter and energy. Purusha is not man or human being. Purusha is that who inhabits Pur, that which inhabits the body and which makes the body alive. The energy, whatever you may call it Atma, you may call it Jeev, you may call it Chit, you may call it Chiti, you may call it Purusha. But the principle is that matter and energy, and what the life-giving energy. Now our thinkers, rishis, I mean, they see from counting pebbles like 24 tattvas, then in a higher level of hierarchy, dividing them into 2 sets, and dividing into 2 sets of matter and energy. And our rishis kept on, introspecting And they reached the conclusion that energy is not independent of matter. Energy is not independent of matter. And they came up with the concept of Brahman in Vedanta. Brahman is simply energized matter. Energized matter. And note the word for the universe. We have Brahmanda from Brahma. Brahmanda. And it has two. One, it is, of course, that it has something to do with Brahman. And second, of course, that its shape is elliptical. Brahmanda. As I think our modern, postmodern physics and all that, they say. So Brahmanda, universe is nothing but an ocean of energized matter. Ek lava hai, lava ka samudra hai, energized matter in which forms arise and forms collapse. Forms arise and forms collapse. And all these forms, they take forms in that ocean of energized matter. Energized matter. Shankar has a beautiful example. I have often quoted it. And I apologize to those who have heard me. They will say, oh no, not again. You see, Shankar has the beautiful example of wave, bubbles and froth in a clear, limpid stream of water. If there is a river, a small stream, and you can see the wave, you can see the wave coming, you can see the bubbles, and you can see the froth. And when you see the bubble, you can point to see what a big bubble. And the moment you say it, it may burst and it may go. But all this is water. All this is water. Forms arising in water and collapsing back. Now, to understand this, because this is the crux of Vedanta. You see, I was born in 1940, and Girishji, now it is my 62nd year of teaching. 62nd year. I was born in 1940. I took form as a bubble in 1940 in this ocean of energized matter. And I don't know, one of these days, this bubble will burst and I'll not be there. And the entire world, samsara, entire world, Jagat is defined by Bhartrihari as the enumerated, something which is enumerated, which can be enumerated. This is a chair, this is a table, this is a tree, this is a wave, this is a plant, this is a bird, this is an animal. You see, this enumerated Jagat that we see, the world that we see, the enumerated Jagat, it is all forms that have been taken in the energized matter, and they are evanescent, transient. 100 years ago, none of us was here, those of us who are today, and 100 years from now, or 50 years from now, none of us will be here. So we are anitya. We are anitya. And what is nitya is only that energized matter. Energized matter. Now this, I think, this concept of understanding Brahman as an energy principle is a siddhant hai. It is a construct. A construct. And as Abhinav Gupta in his commentary on Rasa Sutra, when his disciple asks that rasa, what is rasa? Is it a thing? It is a vastu? Is it something which is born? Is it something which comes into being? Or is it something which shall come into being? He said, no, nothing. It's not a padarth. It is not a padarth. It was not created. It will not come into being. And then he says, then what is it? Then it is not a padarth at all. It is not something that really has astitva. Astitva. So you have a vastvik and you have a vastvik because you have astitva. It does have something. And the master says, Abhinav Gupta says, yes, there are innumerable concepts in the Vedas which have no alamban, niralambanvad. They don't have an adhar. They are constructs. They are constructs. But once you accept them, then you are able to explain. You are able to explain so many things that you observe and see, and you are able to construct, he actually says, bridges and cities. Now look at the principle E is equal to mc square. It's not an object. It is not a padarth. It was not created. Einstein himself says it came to him in a flash. It is just a beginning. It didn't have an end. It was always there. It was never known. It was never known. And yet, once you accept that principle, you are able to do so much. You are able to interrogate the cosmos, and you are able to imagine the galaxies and the intergalactic travel and the time it shall take, and so on and so on and so on. So powerful explanatory construct. In that way, Brahman of Vedanta is a very powerful explanatory construct. In Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta is the most important, most widely studied, and the branch which has a tradition. It was successive. There were thinkers before Shankara, and there have been innumerable thinkers after Shankara who have thought about this thing. The Advaita Vedanta, the main principle of Advaita Vedanta, Mool Mantra. What is the Mool Mantra? You remember Baba Nanak also has a Mool Mantra. Ek Onkar Satguru Prasad, Karta Purakh, Nirmaya. You see, like that. And Guru Nanak's Moola Mantra, in fact, is the most modern definition of Brahman in our tradition of thought. There have been endless thinkers and commentaries who have tried to explain the properties of Brahman. And Guru Nanak's Moola Mantra is the most recent, 16th century. After that, we haven't had any other thinker who has given a definition of Brahman. And now, what is the Mool Mantra of Brahman, of Advaita Vedanta? The Mool Mantra is that Paramartha Satta Roop. Paramartha. You see, there are three levels of reality, 3 levels, we all know. There is the Pratibhasika. What we see may turn out to be untrue later. That is the Pratibhasik Satta. The Vyavaharika, that is, it has a being, but its a Nama Rupa, the Akar and the name is a construct of ours, is our construct. And it is for the Vyavahara, of living life and all that. That is how this is. And then the Paramartha, the actual Satta, actual Paramartha Satta jo hai, Paramartha Satta, which what is Paramartha Satta? It is Satta. What is Satta? That which is not disproved later by anything, jo badhit nahi hoti. Raju Sarp mein, the rope you mistake as snake, but when the light comes, you find no, it's not a rope, it's a snake. Wo badhit ho jati hai. So Raju is not a Satta. So Satta or Satta, Paramartha Satta ki jo Paramartha Satta Roop ki ekta. You know, that one unchanging, anirvachaniya, essential principle, the energized matter that I said, another matter, it is one, ekta. Prashna Upanishad says Brahman is advitiya. There is no second. Ekta. And it is unified. It is non-divisible. It's a niravayav and a nirakara. And it is therefore it's one. That is the basic principle, first basic principle of Advaita Vedanta. And the second one is that this changing, this multiple, this diverse reality that we see, which we call Jagat, that diverse reality that we Jagat, this is anekatmak. It is not ek, it is anek. Ek nahi hai, anek hai, not one, multiple, many. And those many are that many which is called Jagat, uski mayavikta hai, mayavikta. That is, that this Jagat, the multiple Jagat that we see, it is not the reality. It is not the real. It is a product of Maya, which is a property of Brahman, a power of Brahman, and which has two powers, the power to hide and the power to show that in another form. So Maya is a Shakti. It's a Shakti of Brahman, and its Shakti is, it has two powers. It hides avarna on the true nature of Brahman, and then showing that Brahman itself in multiple forms. And ek becomes anek. That anek is mayavik. It's not a satta. It is not satta. And this postulate of ek appearing as anek, has been a major issue in Indian philosophical tradition for a long time. And the last time it was addressed was by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. I am bringing them in because they are the Sikh Gurus were a long tradition of 181 years of Indian philosophical thinking, sustained one after the other. And Guru Gobind Singh, in one of his compositions, Akal Stut, borrowing the term Akal from Guru Nanak, he uses the term Akal for Brahman. We know we have Brahma, we have Par Brahma, but Par Brahma also, Par Brahma, the very word implies that there is Brahma and there is Par Brahma. But then Brahma is claimed, is asserted to be only one, indivisible and advitya. Then how is it that one becomes many? One becomes many. And the answer that's given by the thinkers is that it is the Kala Shakti, which turns one into many. And one into many, that Kala Shakti is not subservient to Brahman. It is an independent Shakti. It's an independent power. And it is because of the Kala Shakti that one appears as many. For example, I said, in 1940 I was born, and sometime I shall no more be there. 60 years ago, none of us were here. 100 years later, none of us will be here. So it is only the Kala, the time, which transforms that an indivisible, energized matter into evanescent forms. And they become many, evanescent forms. So one becomes many. Now therefore, this is one of the issues, and this has been taken care of. Akal, I will not go into that. Why Guru Nanak, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, you prefer to use the term Akal, which is even beyond Par Brahma. You see, that is non-temporal, beyond time. Akal, and usually Akala Stuta. So the mool of Advaita is that Brahman is Satta, and it is one. And this Jagat is an Ekatmak, and it is Mayavik. Now, when we say Mayavik, there are two concepts involved there. One is Maya, the other is Mithya. As we all know, that famous statement by Adi Shankar, that Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, that word Mithya has been badly mistranslated in English as unreal or illusion, which amounts to saying that the world is false, which is not at all what mithya really means. Mithna is a Proto-Indo-European root, and mithna means to construct. Manas Vyapara. It is a product of Manas Vyapara. In my mother tongue, Punjabi, this root still exists as a verb. And my mother often used to, when I was disturbed, would be disturbed by something. My mother would say, "Padya tu ki mithya? What have you constructed in your mind that you are feeling so troubled?" So you see, she had that profound wisdom that if I am troubled, the cause of my trouble must have something to do with my mental operation, my mind. And she said, Tuki mithya, what have you constructed? So mithya means what Shankar meant was Brahma is a satta, shuddha satta, asti. And this jagat is only bhavati, that comes into being. That comes into being through manasa vyapara, through the mental operations. And he meant Brahma Satya, and Jagat is a construct. It is every individual's construct. Every individual constructs this Jagat the way he sees it. Some find it very pleasant, others find it very sad, some find it troubled, some find it troublesome. And we, even in a small one padarth, one object, we construct even one object differently. So this world is multiply constructed, and it is a multiple reality. There is no one. There is a reality behind this. Just like there is water behind the wave and the froth and the bubble. But then what that reality is, we do not know. We predicate about it, and everyone predicates differently. Okay. Now this Advaita Vedanta, naturally Advaita is non-dualistic, and non-dualism between what? Between Brahma and Jiva, Brahma and Jagat. You see, mainly Jiva, Jagat and Brahmand, and then Srishti. These three are really close to each other, because Jagat is Sansara, Brahmand is the cosmos, and Srishti is the creation of this Jagat and creation of this cosmos. And I have already given suggested that through the power of Maya, you see, Maya, Avarana and Vikshepa. A beautiful example is given by Baldev Upadhyay ji, that if we are watching a magician's show, he will open the basket and there will be two balls there. Do gend honge usme pade. He will shut the basket. He will again open that, and instead of the balls, gend, you will have two pigeons. So you see, in this process, the powers of Maya, Avarana, it has hidden the reality of the two balls, and Vikshepa, it has shown you those in another form. So when Brahma is Avarana ho jata hai uspe, Avarana dal jata hai, Avarana avidya se chalta hai, तो हमको उसके रूप जो दिखता है वो हमारे अध्यास से दिखता, हमारा अध्यास is another concept which is very important. You see, जैसे सीपी होती जो है, वो समुद्र की सीपी, उसको उसके ऊपर लाइट डालो तो लगता है जैसे चांदी है. तो हम जैसे अगर आप एक शीशे के पास एक रूबी रख देंगे तो शीशा लाल हो जाता है. आरोप, the color, it is your individual manas which आरोपित करता है और जगत को रूप देता है. जब ब्रह्म अविद्या आवरण, we allow. Now in Indrajala, in magic, those who know that this is Indrajala, it's a much more beautiful word than magic. Indrajala, ये जाल है, एक वेब है जो बनाया है किसी ने. Those who know that it is a जाल, they are not, उनको मोह नहीं होता. मोह is our word. वो उनकी बुद्धि मोहित नहीं होती कबूतर देख के, पिजियन देख के, उनकी मोहित नहीं होती. पर जिसको इसी तरह जिसको अद्वैत का ज्ञान है, उसकी भी बुद्धि इस जगत को देख के मोहित नहीं होती. वो जानते हैं कि जगत निर्मूल है, ये जगत निर्मूल है और इसका कोई तत्व नहीं है. इसके बाद all the rest follows, इंद्रियों को खींचना विषयों से, and all that, as we all students of Indian philosophy know. So this Advaita Siddhanta, it took 5 forms. I have tried to understand them philosophically, and in the true Indian tradition, I have also tried to put my understanding in the form of a parallelism, you know, some example. Now, for example, Shankar's Advaita, strict non-dualism, you know, non-dualism between Jeev and Brahma, Jagat and Brahma. जीव और ब्रह्म में और जगत और ब्रह्म में कोई ड्यूअलिज्म नहीं, भेद नहीं है। वो एक विवर्त है, विवर्त। माया की शक्ति से उत्पन्न हुआ जो संसार है वो तो परिणाम है, पर ब्रह्म को जगत में देखना वो विवर्त है, वो विवर्त है। इट्स जैसे दही से दूध, वो तो विकार है, वो विकार है, वो तो उसका तात्विक परिवर्तन होता है। परंतु रज्जु सर्प में वो इंडिपेंडेंट एंटिटीज रहती है, उनका तात्विक परिवर्तन नहीं होता है। तो ब्रह्म जगत नहीं बनता, ब्रह्म जगत नहीं बनता, रज्जु सर्प नहीं बनती, ये विवर्त है। तो ये विवर्तवाद है। तो इस तरह तो अद्वैत में थिंकर जो डुअलिज्म के ऊपर, मतलब जीव और ब्रह्म, लेट्स से जगत और ब्रह्म ये अलग अलग हैं कि एक हैं, दैट इज द मूल प्रश्न। एक है कि अलग हैं, कि मिले हुए हैं, कि नहीं मिले हुए, कि ज्यादा मिले हुए हैं, कि एक को दूसरे में देखा जा सकता है कि नहीं। दीज आर दी क्वेश्चंस। पंडित जी बैठे हैं अपने संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय के, वो भी आप क्षमा करेंगे अगर गलती करूंगा तो। मैं तो घुसपैठिया हूं ना जी इस एरिया में, तो इसलिए मेरा आउटसाइडर्स व्यू ज्यादा है इसमें। अब देखिए, शंकर का अद्वैत नॉन डुअलिज्म के लिए अगर हम कहें, अगर हम टॉगल करें राधा और कृष्ण में, टॉगलिंग, राधा कृष्ण टॉगलिंग, सेम स्विच, यू प्रेस वंस यू गेट राधा, यू प्रेस अगेन यू गेट कृष्ण, टॉगलिंग है, ये नॉन डुअलिज्म पक्की, राधा टॉगल कृष्ण। रामानुज का विशिष्ट अद्वैत है, विशिष्ट अद्वैत है रामानुजाचार्य का। वो क्या है, हैं तो दो पर मिले हुए, जैसे राधे राधे, राधे राधे। अब राधा कृष्ण का नाम है राधे, कृष्ण ही राधे राधे, राधे राधे, अलग भी है एक भी हो गए, विशिष्ट अद्वैत है। और मध्वाचार्य का द्वैत, मध्वाचार्य का द्वैत जो है वो है राधा का कृष्ण, राधा का कृष्ण, ये विशिष्ट, ये द्वैतवाद है, द्वैत है। और निम्बार्क का द्वैत अद्वैत जो है, द्वैत अद्वैत, राधे, बस एक बार राधे राधे, वो द्वैत भी है उसमें और अद्वैत भी है। एंड वल्लभाचार्य का विशिष्ट द्वैत, विशिष्ट द्वैत, राधे राधे, राधे राधे। हाँ, बड़े मोटे तौर पे पंडित जी, बड़े ब्रॉडली आई हैव ट्राइड टू create these examples to communicate to students, you know, what these relationships really mean, you know. And the great Madhvacharya, the great thinkers, I am so sorry that our education system is such that even if you ask very great professors the 5 thinkers of Advaita and name them, they will not be able to name them. The second question will be still more difficult. How do they differ from each other? Third will be still more difficult. What is the difference? What is the difference? So, inheritors of profound thought are now virtually, you know, surface thinkers, surfers. We are only surfers, surfing and scrolling, surfing and scrolling, not really getting into the depths of these things. Now, to understand, tell me when do I stop? I think I should stop. Girish? Time ho gaya?
Sir, we have 5 more minutes.
Okay. I have 7 more pages, but I think I will just go to the next page. Go to the next page. To understand this core principle that the satta, the adhisthana, or the substratum of all padarthas, Brahman, is Sat and One. And the Vivarta of that One Vivarth of that one is multiple, different, varied, and many, and many. To understand this, we need to deal with certain core principles. कुछ सिद्धांत हमें जानने चाहिए. जैसे ब्रह्मन की अद्वैतता, the non-dualism of the concept of Brahman itself, non-dualism of the concept of Brahman itself, like the non-dualism of mitti and ghada, non-dualism of mitti and ghada. The कारण कार्य भाव में कारण ही सत्य है, कार्य नहीं. कार्य रूप हैं जो हम आरोपित करते हैं, जिनका हम अध्यास करते हैं. So this is the process, this is the mental process by which we create and all this world and all that. Quickly then, the second, इसमें बहुत चीजें हैं वैसे, there are lot of things to think about, but then quickly, the Jagat, what is we talked about Satta, Satya. सत्य, होंद, पंजाबी में कहते हैं होंद, जो है, और सत्ता, what exists, अस्ति. सत्ता भी समय के अनुसार, सत्ता में भी विकार आ सकता है, पर शुद्ध सत्ता जो है, जो कभी बाधित नहीं होगी, जिसका ज्ञान कभी बाधित नहीं होता, वो जो है वही ब्रह्मन है, और उसको हम इसीलिए निरवय और ये कहते हैं. और जगत जो है, हाउ इज इट क्रिएटेड आउट ऑफ निर्विशेष निर्लक्षण ब्रह्म? हाउ इज इट क्रिएटेड? थ्रू माया एंड थ्रू अध्यास. माया एंड अध्यास. You see, the person who believes the pigeons, these are real pigeons, उसने आरोप किया है, मानस मेंटल एप्लीकेशन की है अविद्या से, और उसने उन बॉल्स को पिजियन मान लिया है. सो माया तो शक्ति है जो के एक को अनेक रूपों में प्रेजेंट करती है, पर वो जो रूप हैं उसको बनाते हम हैं. ये दिस इज अ लिटिल सटल, यू नो. इसीलिए कि किसी ने डिवाइड कर दिया, बांट दिया, और बांट तो दिया, और कहा कि भी तुम अपने आप पहचान लो कि क्या है ये, अपने आप पहचान लो. एक थाली में रख दी चीजें जो स्काउट्स को दिखाते थे कि इनको देख लो और पहचान लो. तो बांटने की शक्ति और एक को दूसरी तरह प्रस्तुत करना, एक्स को वाई की तरह प्रेजेंट करना, एक्स को हाइड करके वाई का रूप देना, वो तो माया है. और एक्स को वाई रीड करना वो अध्यास है. और जो वाई है, जो क्रिएट होती है, वो मिथ्या है, वो कंस्ट्रक्ट है. और वो वही करता है जो अविद्या से, जिसमें अविद्या है, जिसको राइट नॉलेज नहीं है. इसीलिए ये ब्रह्म विचार में बाबा नानक ने बड़ा ब्रह्म विचार किया है. ब्रह्म विचार में के सत्य, ये तैत्तिरीय उपनिषद और बृहदारण्यक उपनिषद में आते हैं. ये सत्य, चित्त, आनंद, और चित्त ज्ञान के लिए है. तो सत्य, ज्ञान और आनंद, ये सच्चिदानंद स्वरूप ब्रह्म के भी एक तटस्थ रूप है, एक स्वरूप है. तटस्थ रूप है, जैसे हम कहते हैं कि ब्रह्म जो है वो क्रिएट करता है, मेंटेन करता है और डिस्ट्रॉय करता है. उस वक्त उसकी जो ब्रह्म की सत्ता है उसी समय है जब ये हो रहा है. जब प्रलय हो जाती है, सब कुछ लीन हो जाता है, तब ब्रह्म सिर्फ तटस्थ रूप में नहीं रहता, फिर वो स्वरूप में रहता है. स्वरूप में, स्वरूप में ब्रह्म जो है वो सत्य, चित्त और आनंद है, और तटस्थ रूप में वो क्रिएटर है, मेंटेनर है और डिस्ट्रॉयर है। एंड देन आई थिंक आई विल जीव जिसका अंतःकरण, इनर सेल्फ चैतन्य जो है, जिसे इनर सेल्फ का जो चैतन्य है, जिसमें जिसके इनर सेल्फ में देयर इज चैतन्य, consciousness, very bad translation for chetana, chaitanya, chitta, and that is inside the padartha, the being, that is jiva, and therefore that jiva and atma, at least in Advaita, they are interchangeable. They are interchangeable concepts in this. And this atma, the jiva, this antakaran ki chetana jo hai, इसकी अवस्थाएं हैं, it has states, it has various states, जागृत है, स्वप्न है, निद्रा है, सुषुप्ति है, and it becomes available in panch koshas, 5 koshas, annamay, manamay, pranamay, and vijnanamay, and then anandamay kosh. परंतु जो इनके अतीत में, beyond these अवस्था, beyond this कोश, जो चैतन्य है, बियॉन्ड दीज, ये जो चैतन्य है अवस्थाओं वाला, कोश वाला, ये तो वेरिएबल है, पर इनके बियॉन्ड जो चैतन्य है, प्योर चैतन्य है, वो चैतन्य जो है वो जीव है। और जब इसको ये चीजें मिल जाती हैं तो चंचल हो जाता है। एग्जाम्पल इज गिवन, पैरेलल इज गिवन with a lamp in a dancing room, in a dance hall में जो लैंप है वो dancers, audience and objects सब पे लाइट डालता है। उस वक्त जो लैंप है वो बड़ी चीजों में उसका ध्यान जाता है, पर जब वो सब चले जाते हैं, खत्म हो जाता है, तो दीपक जो है then it reflects only on itself, फिर वो सिर्फ अपना ही स्वरूप दिखाता है। तो उस वक्त जो चंचलता जीव की आती है, वो जब बाह्य जगत हट जाता है विद्या से, तो जो सेल्फ है, जो जीव का जो चैतन्य है, वो अपने आप में सिमट जाता है, जिस प्रकार प्रलय में ब्रह्मन अपने आप में सिमट जाता है। So जीव है। And I think I have practically reached one could spend more details on all these, but then thank you very much गिरीश जी, आपकी बड़ी कृपा और सबकी, जिन्होंने मुझे मौका दिया इस तरह अच्छी बातें सोचने का, नहीं तो पता नहीं कोई मैं टीवी सीरियल देख रहा होता। हाँ, थैंक यू सर।
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Professor Kapoor, for very nicely, very aptly introducing the fundamental concepts, the Jeev, Jagat, Brahman, Srishti, and Brahman. And thank you for taking us deeper inside in these concepts, right from Vedas to Upanishads and to some of the modern concepts that have been put forth. And he also took us through the foundational Sutraik texts, which define each of the Sarvadarsana schools. Thank you so much for taking us right through the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. And you must have, all of you must have noticed his remarkable style in terms of insisting on using original Sanskrit terms and not, using kind of force-fitting English translations. That has been a remarkable style of Professor Kapoor, and we have learned from him that Sanskrit terms are the key terms and they should be used as such. Indian tradition has continuous knowledge building right from the Vedic times to our times. And of course, he also referred to Baba Nanak as a key connection between the Vedas, Upanishads, and our times. And Professor Kapoor himself I call him a modern rishi of our times, and he has been certainly building knowledge to our Orthodox tradition, and has been a very strong link from Vedic to the contemporary. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. And I forgot to mention when I was introducing you that you have been awarded a Shankaracharya Award, a very prestigious award recently. So thank you so much, sir.